Welcome to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries. What if today was your last day, not in a morbid, fear-inducing way, but as a wake-up call? What if you truly grasped, in the depth of your soul, that this moment is all you are promised? Would you keep scrolling past your life? Would you drown in distractions, delay dreams, postpone joy, or wait for someday that may never come? We spend our lives chasing happiness, like it's some distant treasure buried beneath years of hard work, achievements, or the approval of others. We wait for the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect body, the perfect moment, and all the while, life slips by unnoticed, unlived. But what if the key to happiness isn't out there? What if it's been quietly within you all along, buried beneath noise, fear, and the illusion of tomorrow? Jim McCarthy didn't just stumble upon this truth, he earned it as a Silicon Valley veteran faced with a life-threatening cancer diagnosis. He saw with crystal clarity what so many of us miss. Happiness isn't something to be found, it's something to be chosen, cultivated, lived. Every single day. This book is not a lecture, it's not a self-help sermon, it's a life-affirming invitation to awaken to the present, to embrace imperfection, and to celebrate the everyday miracles we've been conditioned to overlook. It is your permission slip to stop existing and start truly living. So take a breath, right here, right now. This is your life, this is your moment, and this is your surprisingly simple guide to what you've been searching for all along. Welcome to Live Each Day. Your journey to happiness begins now. Book, Live Each Day, A Surprisingly Simple Guide to Happiness by Jim McCarthy. Part 1. The Wake-Up Call. Chapter 1. What if you were dying? Imagine you've just been told you have a terminal illness. Everything, your job, your errands, your 5-year plan, suddenly fades into the background. This is how Jim McCarthy opens his powerful book, by reminding us that death isn't a distant threat, it's real, it's inevitable, and it's the wake-up call we often ignore until it's too late. McCarthy shares how his own brush with cancer completely rewired his perspective. A seemingly successful Silicon Valley executive, Jim had checked all the boxes of success, money, career, prestige, but it wasn't until his diagnosis that he really asked himself, am I truly happy? Am I truly living? This is the core message of Live Each Day. You don't need a crisis to start living more meaningfully, but you do need to stop living on autopilot. Chapter 2. The Tyranny of Someday. McCarthy unpacks how we often postpone our dreams, joy, and authentic living for the mythical land of someday. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll start painting again. Someday I'll say what I really feel. But what if someday never comes? This chapter serves as a mirror, reflecting our tendency to defer life. Jim encourages listeners to reflect on the phrase, "What are you waiting for?" He challenges readers to bring urgency into their daily existence, not in a panicked or rushed way, but with intention. Every day is a unique, non-refundable gift. He urges us not to waste it. Chapter 3. Facing the Mirror with Radical Honesty. If you only had a limited number of days left, what would you change? This isn't a hypothetical exercise. McCarthy asks you to face yourself honestly. He introduces a deceptively simple but deeply transformative practice, the happiness inventory. It's a brutally honest self-assessment across areas like relationships, purpose, gratitude, health, fun. But here's the twist. You rate not just how you feel, but how you want to feel. This gap, the happiness delta, is where transformation begins. McCarthy emphasizes that awareness is the first step to change. Once you can name your pain, you can start to heal it. Chapter 4. Gratitude is a superpower. After uncovering what's missing in your life, Jim shifts the focus to something we all have access to: gratitude. And this isn't just feel-good fluff. Backed by science and grounded in personal experience, McCarthy shows how gratitude rewires your brain. It changes your perspective, even changes your body chemistry. He suggests a daily gratitude practice. 3 things you're grateful for, small or big, mundane or magical. The key is consistency, but here's where he gets you. Can you be grateful for the hard stuff, for the failures, the losses, the heartbreak? When you can start to mine gratitude even in the darkest places, life becomes richer, deeper, and paradoxically lighter. Chapter 5. You are not your thoughts. McCarthy wraps up this section with a profound insight drawn from mindfulness. You are not your thoughts. Most of us live in our heads. We replay the past, we rehearse the future, we catastrophize, we criticize, we compare, and we forget that we are not our thoughts. We are the observer of them. This chapter introduces mindfulness, not as a trendy buzzword, but as a life raft. It's the tool that allows us to create space between what happens and how we react through short, accessible practices like breath work and presence checks. Jim shows how we can start living in the moment, not just visiting occasionally. Part 2. The Inner Revolution. Chapter 6. What are you pretending not to know? This chapter hits like a spotlight in a dark room. Jim asks a question that stops most people in their tracks. What are you pretending not to know? It's a call out and a call in. You might be pretending not to know that your relationship is draining you, that your job is crushing your spirit, that your body is crying for help, that you've given up on your dreams. McCarthy doesn't push you toward guilt or shame. He's far more compassionate than that, but he insists that truth is the only foundation for real happiness, and sometimes that truth starts with acknowledging the lies we quietly tell ourselves. Chapter 7. Permission to be human. After shaking us awake, Jim gently shifts to one of the most healing themes of the book, self-compassion. He reminds us, we all mess up, we all have regrets, we all fall short, yet most of us live under a mental whip, driven by perfectionism, self-criticism, and unrealistic expectations. This chapter is about embracing your humanness. It's about giving yourself the same grace you offer a struggling friend. Jim encourages the use of kind self-talk, the letting go of internal bullying, and the simple practice of saying, I'm doing the best I can. He introduces the concept of emotional hygiene, daily mental practices that protect and nourish your inner life, just like brushing your teeth protects your body. Chapter 8. The Story in Your Head. Jim then takes us into the world of self-narrative, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of. You might be telling yourself, I'll never be enough. I'm just not a creative person. No one really gets me. These stories shape your reality more than facts ever could. They're not always true, but they feel true, and that's the danger. McCarthy invites us to challenge the narrative, to rewrite the internal script, to ask, what's a more empowering story I could believe? He also recommends journaling and reflection prompts to identify and revise limiting beliefs, because rewriting your story starts with seeing it clearly. Chapter 9. Living from Values, Not Circumstances. This chapter delivers a pivotal truth. You can't control the weather of life, but you can choose your compass. That compass is your core values. McCarthy argues that most people drift through life responding to circumstances, traffic, stress, difficult people, money issues, rather than living anchored in what truly matters. He walks readers through a simple but revealing exercise, identifying their top 5 values. Not the ones they think they should have, but the ones that genuinely matter to them. Once you know your values, you stop being a ping-pong ball in life's chaos. You start responding, not reacting. You make choices based on what aligns, not just what's convenient. This shift from reactivity to intentionality is a personal revolution. Chapter 10. The Power of Presence. In this chapter, Jim deepens the concept of mindfulness with a single, powerful idea. Happiness is not something you chase, it's something you notice. He describes moments of joy that are easily missed. The warmth of sunlight, the smell of coffee, a smile from a stranger, the rhythm of your own breath. These are happiness, but only if you're present enough to experience them. He introduces the practice of S-T-O-P-S. Stop what you're doing. T. Take a breath. O. Observe your thoughts, feelings, and surroundings. P. Proceed with clarity. This tool is about weaving mindfulness into real life, not just in meditation, but in meetings, commutes, arguments, and celebrations. By cultivating presence, you become rich in awareness, and in that awareness, you find the simplicity of joy. Part 3. Designing a life you actually want to live. Chapter 11. Happiness is a skill, not a mystery. Jim McCarthy begins this section by dismantling one of the biggest myths about happiness. We think it's something that just happens to us, like winning a lottery ticket, but happiness isn't passive. It's not luck. It's a skill, a habit, a choice. He compares it to physical fitness. You don't get healthy by wishing for a six-pack. You get healthy by showing up consistently, by doing the reps. The same goes for joy. McCarthy offers simple daily reps that boost happiness. Practicing gratitude, connecting deeply, moving your body, expressing appreciation. What's revolutionary here is the idea that ordinary practices, done consistently, create extraordinary emotional well-being. Chapter 12. Designing your ideal day. This chapter is where the book pivots from reflection to intention. Jim asks a deceptively simple but profound question. What would your ideal day look like? Not a vacation day, not a fantasy, a realistic yet deeply fulfilling day. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, he invites you to design it on paper. What time do you wake up? What's the first thing you do? What kind of work fills your day? Who do you spend time with? What do you eat, read, say, create? Then he asks the key follow-up. What's stopping you from living that day, at least in part, right now? This isn't about drastic overnight change. It's about designing your days consciously, so you aren't swept along by default routines that dull your spirit. Chapter 13. The joy of saying no. If you want to live your ideal day, Jim argues, you must become a master of boundaries. This chapter explores the often overlooked side of happiness. Eliminating what drains you. We usually chase fulfillment by adding more goals, more commitments, more tasks, but McCarthy flips that. Happiness often comes not from what you do, but from what you stop doing. He encourages you to say no to energy vampires, say no to meaningless meetings, say no to things you say yes to only out of guilt. You can't design a joyful life if your calendar is cluttered with obligations that crush your soul. This is your permission slip to protect your time, your energy, and your joy. Chapter 14. Small Moments, Big Magic. Now that you're clearing space, Jim emphasizes what to fill that space with: meaningful micro-moments. He highlights that joy isn't always found in grand gestures, but in tiny, repeated acts of connection and presence. A shared laugh with a loved one, a moment of silence watching the sunset, a hand on your heart during a tough moment. These micro-moments accumulate. They shape your emotional landscape. McCarthy calls them joy deposits, each one a contribution to your emotional bank account. He challenges the listener. How many of these moments did you notice today? Because happiness isn't waiting in the future. It's already here. You just have to slow down and receive it. Chapter 15. Move your body, shift your mind. This section dives into the mind-body connection, an essential ingredient in designing a good life. McCarthy draws on science and personal experience to show how physical movement impacts mental health. Movement isn't just for fitness, it's for releasing stress, boosting creativity, lifting mood, grounding you in the present. He emphasizes this isn't about training for a marathon, it's about finding joyful movement. Walking, dancing, stretching, swimming, anything that gets you into your body. One of his mantras is, you can't think your way out of a bad mood, but you can move your way out of one. Even 5 minutes can be transformational. Part 4. Living out loud. Chapter 16. Connection is a shortcut to joy. Jim McCarthy opens this final section with a profound truth. Happiness multiplies when shared. He emphasizes that relationships, not achievements, not money, are the strongest predictor of well-being. But he's not just talking about having people around. He's talking about deep, real, nourishing connection. Jim encourages vulnerability. Reach out, express appreciation, say what you've been holding back, ask someone how they really are, and wait for the answer. He shares personal stories of people facing terminal illness who say their greatest regrets weren't about goals missed, but words unspoken and love unshared. Connection, Jim says, is not optional. It's emotional oxygen, and the best part, you don't need to fix anyone's life. You just need to show up fully. Chapter 17. Facing Mortality, Finding Meaning. This chapter is one of the most emotionally gripping parts of the book. McCarthy brings us back to the foundation of his message. He was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. That moment shattered his illusions of control, but it also awakened him. He describes how staring down death stripped away the superficial and clarified what mattered: time with loved ones, doing work with meaning, laughing, helping, creating, being kind. Facing mortality didn't make him fearful, it made him fierce about living. He challenges the listener. What would you do differently if you knew your time was limited? Instead of denying death, he urges us to integrate it, not as a morbid thought, but as a motivator to live courageously, presently, and purposefully. Chapter 18. Write your eulogy now. This chapter is not about gloom, it's about clarity. Jim introduces one of his most powerful exercises, writing your own eulogy. Imagine someone who loves you standing up at your funeral. What do you want them to say? That you were kind, that you lived with integrity, that you brought laughter into every room. Now ask, are you living that life right now? The eulogy exercise isn't about fear, it's about alignment. When you know how you want to be remembered, you know how to show up today. McCarthy says, a well-lived life is a daily rehearsal for your legacy. Chapter 19. Your happiness is a gift to the world. Jim flips the script on the idea that happiness is selfish. He argues that the more joyful and grounded you are, the more present and generous you become. When you live fully, you lift others by your energy, your example, your words. He says, you want to change the world. Start by lighting your own life on fire. Because you can't pour from an empty cup, but a full heart naturally spills over. Happiness isn't indulgent, it's contagious, and in a world often dominated by cynicism and exhaustion, your happiness is an act of rebellion, a beacon. Chapter 20. Live each day. The final chapter is a return to the book's title, a call to live not just for the day, but in it, not rushed, not numbed, not buried in to-do lists, but alive. McCarthy offers a closing mantra. This day is your life in miniature. Treat it like it matters, because it does. He reminds us that the goal isn't perfection, it's presence. It's savoring the coffee, laughing with your kids, feeling the rain, saying, I love you. It's creating moments that, strung together, become a beautiful life. Epilogue. The gift of now. Jim closes with deep gratitude. He's still here, living with intention, not because he knows how long he has, but because he knows that today is real, that today is enough. He invites us all to tell the truth, be kind to ourselves, drop the mask, embrace change, choose joy anyway, because ultimately, happiness isn't a destination, it's a way of being, and it's available to you right now. Final reflection. One life, one day, one choice at a time. If you remember only one thing from this book, Jim McCarthy wants it to be this. You have more power than you realize, and you don't need to wait to be happy. Live each day, because it's not just poetic, it's urgent. Read the book to learn more. Thanks for listening to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries.